Hello, I'm Dan Sample with George Memorial Library, and today I'll be talking about Arizona Fleming, Fort Bend County businesswoman and civil rights activist. 1884. On May 1st, the 8-hour workday was first proclaimed by the Federation of Organized Trades and Labor Unions in the United States. It is called May Day or Labor Day, and is now a holiday recognized in almost every industrialized country, except the U.S., where it is celebrated in September. May 17th, Alaska becomes a United States territory. June, the Switchback Railway, one of the earliest roller coasters, is built at Coney Island in New York. August 5th, the cornerstone of the Statue of Liberty is laid on Bedloe's Island in New York Harbor. August 28th, the first recorded photo of a tornado is taken by F.N. Robinson in Howard, South Dakota. November 4th, in the 1884 United States presidential election, Democratic Governor of New York, Grover Cleveland, defeats Republican James G. Blaine. December 6th, the Washington Monument is completed. And on March 23rd, Arizona Fleming was born in Richmond, Texas, to Beauregard, Bully, Fleming, and Laura Lovering. Not a lot is known about her early life. She attended segregated schools and then attended the all-black Guadalupe College in Seguin, Texas. It appears that in 1903 she married an F.A. Hicks, and then in 1912 married Robert Simmons. These marriages have not been verified. So far, death records have not been found for either men, and nothing so far indicates that Arizona and Hicks and Simmons lived together, and she doesn't appear to have ever changed or used either man's last name, which seems unusual for the time period. An article written about her appeared in the Texas Coaster on December 20th, 1951, and there is no mention of either marriage. 1927. January 7th, the first transatlantic phone call is made via radio from New York City to London. Also, the Harlem Globetrotters played their first ever road game in Hinckley, Illinois. On March 11th, the first armored car robbery is committed by the Flatheads gang near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. May 20th through the 21st, Charles Lindbergh makes the first solo nonstop transatlantic flight from New York City to Paris, France, in his single-engine aircraft, the Spirit of St. Louis. Also in 1927, Arizona and several others started the Fort Bend Fraternal Undertaking Company and serviced the African American community in Fort Bend and surrounding areas, including Wharton, Austin, and Waller counties. This was likely spurred by a serious flu epidemic going on at the time. As she learned about running a business, she kept working as a seamstress. She began as secretary, then moved on to manager, before eventually becoming the sole proprietor of the company. During the Great Depression, she was able to stay afloat with the help of an uncle, C.H.D. Fleming of Beaumont, Texas. And after that, she was able to become a homeowner. Since 1869, a biracial coalition of African Americans, white Republicans, and moderate Democrats had dominated the Fort Bend County government. Blacks and whites worked together, with no one group being left out of the process. In 1887, the Jaybird Democratic Association, an all-white political organization, was formed by young men to challenge and regain control of the county government. the opposition became known as woodpeckers. The names are said to have come from an old African American man who would sing of jaybirds and woodpeckers during this period. While members of the jaybirds did serve in the government in appointed positions, they were upset that they were no longer in control and could not win elections. In 1888 and 1889, things boiled over. On August 16, 1889, a gun battle took place in Richmond between the two factions. After the violence subsided, most of the county government was forced to resign. In finding replacements, the jaybird politicians were the only ones that had sufficient wealth to post bonds for the open offices. And the jaybirds refused to post bonds for anybody in the opposition. As a result, the county government was reorganized under the control of the jaybird faction. On October 3, 1889, the jaybirds were in charge, and the former office holders and some community leaders were run out of town. Once in charge, the jaybirds immediately passed Jim Crow laws and disallowed African Americans, Hispanics, or Jews from participating in the election process. The jaybirds then established a white-only primary ballot for county offices. This effectively disenfranchised African Americans because this was the only competitive contest, and the winners of these primaries invariably won the subsequent official elections. (1950) January 17th, the Great Brinks Robbery. 11 thieves stole more than $2 million from the Brinks Armored Car Company, headquartered in Boston, Massachusetts. February 15th, Walt Disney releases his 12th animated film, Cinderella, in Hollywood. March 8th, the first Volkswagen Type 2, also known as the microbus, rolls off the assembly line in Wolfsburg, Germany. June 25th, the Korean War begins. And October 2nd, the comic strip Peanuts by Charles M. Schulz is first published in 7 U.S. newspapers. Also in 1950, Willie Melton, a prosperous African-American farmer from Kendleton, a city in western Fort Bend County, with the assistance of NAACP, or the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, attorney William J. Durham notified the Jaybird Democratic Association that they were violating the law and that blacks wanted to participate in the primaries. The Jaybird Association stated that they were a private club and within their rights to restrict membership. Fleming, among others, soon joined Melton, and she threw herself into the project and lent her name to local efforts to end racial discrimination. They first petitioned the Texas Attorney General, Price Daniel, but he refused to get involved with the case. Melton then approached J. Edwin Smith of a Houston law firm, who advised him to get some plaintiffs for the lawsuit against the association. This was difficult because of fear of retaliation. Eventually, he was able to get several African Americans over 60 years old to join the case. While they were assisted by the NAACP, black churches, and wealthy Houston blacks, Melton and Fleming paid the bulk of the legal fees. On May 1, 1950, the United States District Court for the Southern District ruled that the Jaybird Association operated as a political party and therefore came under federal statutes that protected voting rights. After this victory, the Fort Bend Civic Club was formed with Melton as president and Fleming as secretary. they organized it to get out the black vote. In a following primary, 400 of the 550 eligible African American voters went to the polls with no reported incidents of violence. On January 11, 1952, the United States Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit overturned the verdict. In response, the Fort Bend Civic Club was able to fundraise another $6,000 to pursue the case to the Supreme Court. In 1953, January 7th, President Harry S. Truman announces that the United States has developed a hydrogen bomb. February 5th, Walt Disney's feature film Peter Pan premieres. March 1st, Joseph Stalin suffers a stroke and dies on March 5th. March 26th, Jonas Salk announces his polio vaccine. April 13th, N. Fleming publishes his first James Bond novel, Casino Royale, in the United Kingdom. Also in May, the United States Supreme Court upheld the original district court ruling in Terry v. Adams, and that the Jaybird Association's whites-only primaries was in violation of the 15th Amendment. The 15th Amendment, adopted into the U.S. Constitution in 1870, stated that the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. 1976. January 21st, the first commercial Concorde flight takes off. February 4th, the 1976 Winter Olympics begin in Innsbruck, Austria. March 22nd, Star Wars begins filming in Tunisia. April 1st, the Apple Computer Company is formed by Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. July 4th, the United States celebrates the bicentennial for the 200th anniversary of the American Revolution. When Arizona Fleming died on January 18, 1976, it is said that she was penniless due to the legal bills from the fight with the Jaybird Association. A.J. Adams, who had purchased Arizona's business, buried her in Mount Carmel Cemetery in Richmond. Prior to her death, when asked about the court case and the expense of it, she said, "I'd do it all over again." In 1994, the Fort Bend Independent School District named the Arizona Fleming School after her. In 2009, a historical marker was placed in Kendleton to commemorate Terry versus Adams, the Supreme Court case that restored the vote to African Americans. Arizona is mentioned in the description for her role in the case.